Hello and welcome to another episode of the Proton Pack Podcast. I'm Chris, and with me always is the Pikachu to my Ash, Tony. Say hey, Tony.
Pikachu.
Hey.
What up, guys? Episode
Hey, it worked.
one.
And it worked as subscribed.
Yeah, we are here. It is a Tuesday night, and we're ready to bring the news to you.
We are. But before we get going with the pop culture news, let's go ahead and get into our shameless plugs.
It's shameless plug time.
It is in these hills that Juan Valdez and his trusty goat gather coffee beans every morning. Yeah. Money's cool.
Money's always cool, Chris. I like
It is always cool. Speaking of money,
Give us
we would
your
love if
money. Okay, really?
Yeah, we would love if you donated to my dog rescue nonprofit, Rough Riders. You can find us at roughriders.org. We are a Northern Nevada-based dog rescue nonprofit. We go out and pull dogs from kill shelters, both in the rural areas of Nevada and then all along up the West Coast. We are currently raising money for a van fleet, 2 commercial vehicles that are outfitted to move more dogs at any given time, and always looking for donations there. In addition to Tito's Handmade Vodka, who has committed to donating $10,000 to the next $10,000 we raise, we're working on something that could be very cool and give us a lot of exposure. But until then, still need your donations. So if you want to learn more about that, go to roughriders.org/transport, or you can go to our Facebook or Instagram pages, whatever it is, Facebook, Instagram.com/roughriderssaves. That does it for my shameless plug. What about your shameless plug,
My
Tone?
shameless plug is the same every week, Chris. I'm talking about the little movie segment I contribute to on Jimmy Jones Show, Pop Culture Kaboom. You can listen to Pop Culture Kaboom every Sunday night from 7 to p.m. Pacific time. You can stream it live on kmbc.org, or you can tune into 95.1 FM Carson City Community Radio if you're in the Northern Nevada area. Jimmy Jones.
KNVC.
MVC. Jimmy talks everything from pop culture, cons, toys, comic books, movies, books, you name it. If he's into it, he will discuss it. Actually get a lot of insider stuff. He interviews a lot of indie book writers, comic book writers, movies, directors, things of that nature. So, as he says, everything you want, everything you need, Jimmy Jones, Pop Culture Kaboom.
Definitely well worth the check out. All right, well, that does it for our shameless plugs. Let's start out the way we do every week when it comes to the stories that we cover with TV news.
Bazinga.
The cream of the crop.
Hey, baby.
Let's go, Bob.
Excellent.
Hail to the king. The stories that we cover with
You know what's funny is I just heard for the first time in that little montage that you do, the oh
You never
no.
heard that, Nathan?
I never heard that before. Never picked it
one
up.
of these days, I want to come up with some alternative ones eventually, and that way we have different intros every so often. But
Yeah, that'd be
I'm glad
fun.
you picked that up after all this time. I
Yeah.
think you said Macho Man's the cream of the crop.
No, I definitely got that
Like
one.
everyone did.
you son of a bitch.
So, in TV news, of course, the biggest news probably of the year is that Disney Plus finally dropped. It is in homes all across the world, and it definitely doesn't disappoint. Now, it took me a little while to get on. I was one of the lucky ones who am a Verizon Unlimited customer, recently switched. Of course, when we recently switched, we didn't set up our My Verizon accounts yet, and so we had to figure all of that out before we could even get into the Disney Plus app. Now, once we did, very happy with it. My fiance has been utilizing it more than I have, and we have come across some of the strangest shows and movies that we honestly haven't seen in forever. The first night we got it, we watched Return to Oz, a movie that I haven't seen in like 25 years, partially done in conjunction with the Jim Henson Company. And it's on Disney Plus, but it's almost a full-on horror movie. It is weird and trippy, and this little girl, Dorothy, who's Fruza Balk, she was in The Craft and Waterboy. She's dumped off at this mental asylum. It's messed up. Well worth going back and watching, but messed up.
Yeah, I was going to say, on my first day, I watched an episode of The Simpsons, and they actually had Milhouse's, if you go to season 30, Milhouse's parents got a little hot and bothered and had sex. So it was a little weird that made Disney Plus. I have not found the elusive Nazi Donald Duck episode.
Oh, is it in there somewhere?
It's in there, no.
Oh, okay.
Mike, a loyal listener, Mike, who's in Disney World right now, who probably will not chime into the show, you lucky son of a gun. He has the episode downloaded, so I've seen it. It was very interesting.
Very weird. The one thing that we did watch the other night that I was pleasantly surprised to see was Willow. Willow is a movie that for a couple years, you can't find it on DVD or Blu-ray. If you go on Amazon, it sells for like $300.
Really?
We finally found it on YouTube. Obviously, it wasn't a legitimate version, but it was in the old like VHS quality, so it was terrible. Now it's in high def, and that movie holds up. That was a fun
I gotta
movie.
watch that. I mean, shoot, we're friends with Val Kilmer now. I mean, we practically were within striking distance. I'm sure, much like how Taylor Swift and Chris Jericho are friends of the show, Val Kilmer is now a friend of the show. So we'll have to check that out.
Yeah, so Disney Plus has been a lot of fun. Now, Tony talked about The Simpsons, and we did watch a few of the very first episodes of The Simpsons. Very crudely drawn, obviously just came off of the Tracy Ullman show. Still funny, still very,
I'm
very
amazed
funny.
that it made it to Disney Plus, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Really amazed. I would have expected Hulu out of it, but whatevers.
So, but when you watch it, it's like watching it on network cable now. It's at the 16.9 aspect ratio, which is the widescreen. If you're watching this, it's very similar to what we're at. But the first 19 and a half seasons were actually done in a 4:3 aspect ratio. Obviously, flat screen TVs weren't out when it first came out. It was, more the box TVs and almost a perfect square. And, there's something to say to that. A lot of the retro gaming systems now, you can put to that 4:3 aspect ratio and get a little nostalgia. But Disney has said that in early 2020, they will give viewers the option to watch those first 19 and a half seasons in either the 4:3 original aspect ratio or the 16:9 as it is right now. Thoughts on that, Tone?
I don't know. It doesn't really bug me a whole lot, but it's cool that there's been enough backlash and feedback on it that they're gonna go back and do it. So I think that's great that Disney is listening to the listeners and subscribers. Did you know randomly that they're taking out, or they took out the Michael Jackson episode?
Did they really?
They didn't put it in. That's all I wanted, was just that. Thank you. I thought they said woo. I thought it was going.
and it keeps going.
Yeah, jeez Louise. But no, so they took out that episode where he was the mental patient, and the reason why they took it out is because of that bad documentary Surviving Neverland. So Disney didn't want anything to do with MJ, which is weird because wasn't he Captain EOS?
Captain EO, yeah.
Kind of random.
Yeah, and you get the Happy Birthday Lisa song.
You don't get that in the Disney Plus version.
Not so much anymore. And of course, aside from every episode of The Simpsons minus that one, the biggest draw to getting Disney Plus right as it launched was The Mandalorian. the Star Wars series, executive produced and overseen by Jon Favreau, the most expensive television series to date, and got a chance to watch at least the first episode. I know you've seen the first two, Tony, but I really enjoyed it. It was a little more humorous than I expected it to be. I thought it was going to be more of a serious Game of Thrones dark tone, but I think the humor worked. I like Pedro Pascal as the Mandalorian. Don't quite understand a lot of what's going on quite yet, but of course they do that just to sort of set the stage for episodes to come. And then, at the final scene of the first episode, no real spoilers here, there is the bounty hunter bot that he teams up with that I thought was hilarious. I thought that was the best part of the whole show.
No, quit trying to self-destruct. I have to self-destruct. Do not self-destruct. A lot of people liked him up until the very last moment.
Yes, yeah. But we won't ruin that for you.
No. I gotta say, yeah, I've watched both episodes and no spoilers. You don't want to ruin it for anybody, especially Chris hasn't seen episode 2.
Nope.
With a little hint, I don't know if the name shows up there or not. I don't think it.
Other side.
Is it on there? It didn't show up on my
There
screen,
you go.
so
Yep.
I'm guessing. So, anyways, it's down there, possibly. And
Our eagle-eyed
fans
fans.
will catch that. But there is a cool thing. I thought it was really well done. I like how how he caught the bounty guy, and the guy's like, "I don't think I'm going home today." You are either. Throws him in that carbonite.
Oh, that was so cool.
And what I really like about this show, and what makes me excited about Disney Plus, is man, they kind of stick it to you like a real old school TV shows where you have to wait till next week to see what the hell is going on. There is no binge watching unless the whole season goes. So,
yep.
Fans of binging episode after episode, you're gonna have to wait. It's only released once a week, so.
And I kind of like that.
I do too, because it gives you the freedom to go back and watch some other things. Like you're like, okay, well, I'm caught up on Mandalorian. Maybe I can go check out this show. So there's some really neat shows on Disney Plus. Did you get a chance to watch The World According to Jeff Goldblum?
Watched a little bit of that. The fiance wasn't totally into it, but so we switched off of that. Watched a little bit of Marvel's Hero Project, which was very good. And then I started watching the Imagineering documentary, which people started coming over to the house about 15 minutes into that, and I had to stop it because I actually wanted to pay attention to what was going on.
That was a good show. I think I'm really excited to see what Disney Plus starts bringing to the table with all their original shows. And man, if the Marvel shows are anything like The Mandalorian, worth the price of admission. Disney Plus so far, very impressive. And because we had just met, oh man, I'm gonna get crap for this. I doubt he watches the show, so it's okay. But Brian Cummings, thank you.
I figured that's who you were talking
I
about.
had to go
but
back and watch one of his episodes from DuckTales, and it still held up well. So literally, my first night of Disney Plus consisted of The Mandalorian, The Simpsons, Aladdin, the making of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, some of Jeff Goldblum, and the Imagineering. So it could suck you in for sure. There's a lot of content. Like I was telling Chris before we went on the air, I started with Aladdin, fell asleep, and then later at some point it kept playing to whatever the next movie was, which was The Little Mermaid. So I woke up in the middle of The Little Mermaid. So.
Don't lie, you wanted to watch The Little Mermaid.
I did not.
So at launch, a lot of shows, a lot of movies. I just took time to scroll through everything. There was one that I came across that is one of those like made for Disney movies that always sort of sat at the back of my head during Halloween time, and I never remembered what it was called or what it was. And I came across it when going through, and it's called Mr. Boogedy.
What?
I haven't watched it yet because I'm afraid that it won't live up in my mind the way I remember watching it as a kid. But I remember it being like a legit kind of scary Disney movie for kids. Back in the day.
Say? Who the hell's in Mr. Boogie? I've never heard of this.
I have no idea, but I came across it. So yeah, lots of stuff. Now the question is, what's next for Disney Plus? What's coming out soon? And the good news is we've got a whole list of things depending on what realm of the Disney empire you enjoy. So for us, obviously, the big thing is Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we've talked about a lot of the shows that are going to be coming up on that. Now we've got some roundabout release dates for when we're going to see those. The first MCU series is going to be The Falcon and Winter Soldier. That comes fall of 2020, so you have almost an entire year to wait. After that, you have WandaVision in spring 2021. Loki, spring 2021, Marvel's What If, summer 2021, Hawkeye, fall of 2021, and then the most recently, don't know what that was.
I dropped an article and then got a beep.
That makes sense. And then the most recently announced series, Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, and Moon Knight. No release dates yet, but actually, if you go back last episode, we talked about two of those finding head writers. So those are going to start coming together pretty quickly here.
Oh yeah, it's very good. I like too some of the features on Disney Plus. I don't know if it's a major thing, like on Netflix where you can set up and have your little icon for your own individual account. I really love that Disney Plus gives you, like you can pick from Marvel, Pixar, Star Wars, Disney, and all that, and those can be your little icons. So that's pretty cool.
Yep. Ooh, I'm seeing the dreaded red bars on Tony's screen.
No, don't say that. Let's just keep rolling.
The kids must be tapping in. When it comes to the Star Wars side of things, we have the Obi-Wan standalone Ewan McGregor series to look forward to. No release date for that yet, but we did report last week that it's going to start filming next July. Chances are we're going to see a Mandalorian Season 2 based on the success of this one. And then there are 3 unannounced Star Wars projects, also obviously with no release dates at the moment.
It'd be cool. I'd like to see a Darth Maul one. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know where...
It would be cool to have Darth Maul as the main villain in the Obi-Wan series.
Yeah.
Because obviously with what happened in Phantom Menace... Oh, excuse me. But then at the same time, we know he's still alive because of Rogue One. No, Solo, a Star Wars story.
And he was also in Clone Wars too, so they follow the canon, so we know he's been around, which is good. He's a badass character. They got a really crappy ending in the first one. We were gonna ask him questions on the Proton Pack, but he totally didn't show up to Arena Pop Culture.
Yeah, apparently he was sick.
He probably got wind that there wasn't a really big turnout at first, and he got scared. But he didn't show up the day where there was a good turnout. So.
Yeah. So now one of the Marvel series that we talked about was titled Marvel's What If. It is an animated series that is part of the MCU. We know that it's borrowing voice talent from all across the MCU to return and play the actors that they played in the movies. But it is animated, and it is sort of alternative takes on storylines that we know and love. Well, apparently, according to Jeff Goldblum, who obviously voices the Grand Master from Thor Ragnarok. I'm surprised you don't have that.
It's there, but I didn't play it. I wouldn't be able to find the clear button in time, the silence button.
Gotcha. Well, Jeff Goldblum is saying that...
Because I had it
Gotcha. Jeff Goldblum is saying that Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark, Iron Man, will return to voice the character that he played for Marvel's What If. So we already know we're going to see him a little bit in the Black Widow movie, and now we're getting word that he's going to be in Marvel's What If. So definitely not the end of Tony Stark, with the snap.
Yeah. I'm excited to see. I'm actually really jazzed to see the what if. I think concept's going to be cool. Um, Again, one of those neat things that comes out. We just got to wait a while for it, which that's okay.
And I was scrolling through our Facebook page, which, by the way, is facebook.com/Proton Pack Podcast. Speaking of shameless
Yes,
plugs.
and feel free to chime in.
Absolutely. Tony, you had posted something, one of the what ifs, which was something about if Iron Man either was part of the Afghan war or was World War II instead of.
Yeah, he was in. If he had teamed with Captain America versus in the World War II versus that, like what would it have been like? And they showed images.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is that something they're planning on doing for the series, or was that just like a we hope this happens
I think that might
sort
be
of thing?
just a we hope that's what happens. So I think that's pretty far in advance. I don't think they would know. It's basically I know the Peggy Carter one they alluded to what if she wielded the shield versus Captain America. So and then she becomes her own superhero, which is agent something. I don't have my information, so I will
That's
on
okay.
But that was the premise of that for her. So
Okay. Well, that does it for the Disney Plus news. I mean,
so
is
would you
there
say for-
anything we're forgetting in that
No,
realm?
not really. I mean, you've got Pixar, National Geographic. There's everything for everybody. There's classic Disney. There is Pixar. There's Disney Animation. There is everything from the Disney Afternoon era. Star Wars.
X-Men, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Incredible
The only
Hulk.
thing you don't get, which we will cover later, is a certain movie franchise if you're a fan of, but that is later in the at the end. I don't know why we put it down at the bottom because it was a movie, probably.
Because it's a movie
Yeah,
thing.
we'll talk about it then. But there is one thing noticeably absent from that. But I mean, cartoon-wise, can't go wrong. I mean, they even included the Spider-Man animated series from Fox, which I didn't think they were going to do.
Yeah.
Which what a cheesy intro, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and I will say I did watch X-Men on day one too, and a lot of fun. But there's no X-Men movies or Fantastic Four. None of those are on there. But the animated series are. So
That's what I would have liked to have seen is the Pride of the X-Men. You remember when they tried to do the animated series, but they only had the one episode, and Wolverine had a Australian accent for some weird reason.
yeah, that would have been good, but it's not on there.
It's
guess
not.
there's an
The animation
outcry,
was
too,
fantastic
I
for
guess.
that.
A lot of fanboys are pissed because they put the episodes in. They're not in order, so when they're watching it. But also, I don't know if I can just play devil's advocate there a bit. Even on the DVD release, or they didn't in particular air in order back when we were kids either, because the way the animation went, where they had to send it to different countries, certain episodes came back before then, so sometimes storylines didn't really jive together. So I think that could just be more of that more than anything.
And I think it was, I forget how many seasons total there was of the X-Men animated series, but for the final 2 seasons, they had 2 different animation houses working on it. So that's where, as you mentioned, they would send it off, it would come back, not quite in the same order. But actually, if you watch the intros, you can tell which animation house did which. And one is definitely better than the other.
Gotcha. I have to pay attention to that. Believe it or not, I don't recall seeing every episode. So, I mean, I remember the first couple seasons for sure. But by the time we got to high school and stuff, while it was still airing, I don't recall watching it as much. So,
well, now you can.
oh yeah.
All right, so moving it.
Let's go, bub.
Yeah, there's a good drop. All right, next story is that Legendary Pictures, or Legendary Television in this case, has closed a deal with Frank Miller for a Sin City TV series. Now, if you recall, there were 2 Sin City movies, just Sin City and then its sequel, Sin City: A Dame to Kill For. The first one was co-directed by Frank Miller and Robert Rodriguez, and then the second one was just Frank Miller. I we actually went back and watched the first Sin City maybe 2 weeks ago, and it holds up. It was a fun movie. It was obviously before the big comic book,
Boom.
boom sort of happened. It is a true R-rated, comic book series. But yeah, they are looking at bringing it to TV. No word yet on which network or streaming service it'll be on, but Frank Miller has signed that deal with Legendary Television.
If I was guessing, if I were to do it, if it's going to be like a network television, I would definitely go AMC.
Yeah.
I think that would be the smart way to go because Preacher did really well on there. Walking Dead's done well on there. I think Sin City could actually thrive, maybe not long term, but definitely for a little while.
Right. Or HBO, Stars.
Yeah, I was going to say HBO's great. Or even if you had to, Netflix would be fine because God, Netflix needs the properties. So
yeah, most definitely. So if you're a fan of Sin City, just hang tight. We'll give you more information as the TV series comes about, but definitely a fun couple of movies.
Did you end up seeing A Dame to Kill For?
I did, probably about a year ago. I couldn't tell you much about it aside from Eva Green.
Seen it. Let us know if you liked it or not. But,
not quite as iconic as the first one, but still holds its own.
Shabby.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the world of Netflix. Netflix has a documentary series that we talked about early on the Proton Pack podcast. Proton,
brother.
That goes back to a little inside joke from the Reno Pop Culture Con when a girl walked up and thought we were the Protein Pack podcast. Oh, all right. I digress. Anyway, a Netflix documentary series we talked about early on called The Toys That Made Us. And the first couple seasons featured toys like Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Barbie, and of course my favorite, Transformers. Well, now season 3 is about to come out. And while they're featuring My Little Pony, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and the pro wrestling figures, they are featuring one toy line that is near and dear to both of our hearts, but probably more so Tony, because this toy line is his version of my Transformers.
Oh yeah, we're talking this. I put all my pop figures away because I'm going to be relocating studios, but we're talking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Sorry, this is all I got for pop culture right now.
Is that Rubber Band Michelangelo?
Rubber Band Michelangelo. Ex-girlfriend, her sister made it out of rubber bands for me, so I held on to it. It's it's pretty damn cool. It's unique.
And they were fun toys. I mean, the original series of toys were good, and into the second season, and then probably season 3 and moving on, they came out with weird gimmicky versions of the turtles, and almost every episode was like, here's a brand new character so we can make a brand new toy.
Yeah, I can remember from my childhood. I mean, you got to think back then when we were kids, it's like we had to ask our parents to get these. Like if we were adults, we'd probably be in trouble. I'd be buying all of them. As a kid, you got lucky, but there was a lot of weird toys. I think one of the weirdest ones I owned was, what is that? Muckman and Ooze. There was that trash can guy, and he had a little alien, and he put goose out of his stomach.
Yep.
And then there was Wingnut and Screw Loose. That they were kind of weird. And then, of course, like you said, the gimmicky Ninja Turtles, like Undercover Donatello, he had the little gun that said bang. And then Sewer Surfing Mikey. That was one of my favorite action figures.
They had the one where it was like a actual turtle, and then you open the shell and you flip the arms and the heads around, and then it turns into the Ninja Turtle.
Oh, yeah. And what was weird, too, about those toys? I can remember in my elementary school, like, I had Rocksteady, but so did another kid. But his Rocksteady had a rubber head. Mine was a hard plastic head.
Yeah, apparently if you find the soft rubber heads of the first line of toys, those are major collector items.
If I could go back in time,
Yeah.
because he definitely had the squishy head one. But you remember, like, there was so many weird characters, like Pizza Face. That was a weird one.
Yep. Mondo
Mondo
Gecko.
Gecko, or was it Ray Fillet? You remember there was like the space Raphael, and I remember I had the Rat King that I stole from my neighbor David. Don't steal, kids. It's not nice.
They did some crossovers
Yeah.
too, weren't there? Like wrestling versions,
Those
or
were the recent ones.
oh,
Yeah, because
okay,
they had like or maybe they did back then. Oh, they know they did like a throwback one because they had an Ultimate Warrior or a Sting, a Macho Man Randy Savage, an Undertaker, I think a John Cena, if I'm not
okay,
mistaken. But they were way past us. But when we were kids, Usagi Yojimbo, that rabbit was one crossed over.
yep,
But I mean, when you think about the core original Ninja Turtle action figures, I mean, you're talking about the original, Mikey, Donnie, Leo, Raph. You had April O'Neil, which was kind of a weak action figure. That looked just awful, terrible
yep,
looking. But what was cool is they all came with the little weapons, and you had to pry them out of this little plastic round thing, and they had little ninja stars you could clip to their belts, and their belts came off, and you could attach their weapon. Shredder looked weak; he was all scrawny and just lame. He was
yeah,
just like lame and purple. And then Rocksteady and Bebop were pretty cool, and then they had a Foot Soldier. That was like the original set before it got
yeah.
funky. But
And the vehicles were pretty cool too. I had the Rat King Ski-Doo thing, and oh man, the pizza van,
that,
and
or the pizzas, and then you shot the pizzas out of it. My friend
totally.
Brian had the turtle blimp, which I didn't have the
Oh
blimp, but it was cool.
no,
He had the blimp. He had freaking everything, man.
I had the sewer playset. That was
Oh,
awesome.
yeah.
And then the coolest thing was the Krang body. That was
Oh, dude, I
massive.
never had that one. There was
That
some
was
missing.
cool.
I'm also looking now. I'm cheating. I brought up a picture here, but they had Casey Jones. They had Ace Duck. I had him. He was kind of a lame ass character. They had Baxter Stockman, the Fly version, General Trag,
Yep.
the Rock guy, Leatherface, the Gecko, Genghis Khan was that, but it was Genghis Frog. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
that metal head.
Leatherface, wasn't he a crocodile?
No, that was Leatherface. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
That's yeah.
but I
That's what I
never owned
said.
Krang. I'm looking at that second wave. I never had Krang.
Well, Krang, if you bought him individually, he had like this little like robot legs. Yeah.
Did you have like? And then I look at the next one where they had Pizza Face and Mutant Man, but they had Slash. I had Slash, and I had the Triceraton guy,
I didn't have those.
Fugitoid. That's where I had
Yep.
Mondo Gecko. And then I think it was after that. That's when I stopped collecting them because all the other figures that came out, from what I can see, I never had those ones. They had some weird. They had a moose, a Canadian looking moose.
I
Real
remember that.
weird. Never had that one,
Yeah.
but definitely childhood. So on a long Ninja Turtle rant tonight, I'm excited to watch the toys that made us. I think maybe after the show, I'm kind of interested in going to watch that one. Um,
Now, is season 3 already out?
yes, it is now available to stream on Netflix. And you know what
Well,
inspired me?
there
You
you
know what
go.
brought up this article really was I was on Twitter, the old Twitter machine. Sorry, I was like take down the studio with my name. I started following Tara Strong after we met her at the Reno Pop Culture Con, which was an event. And now you can listen to episode 40. It just dropped today, and we're doing 41. So there you
Right.
go.
There was a lot to edit
Yeah,
together in that
kudos
one,
to
so I
this guy right
apologize.
here. Hold on, let me point this way. See,
No, other direction.
I can't do it.
Nope. There you go.
Kudos to that guy right here for editing all of that because I complimented him. Like, it didn't sound bad. He goes, yeah, a lot of editing. But anyways, I
Yeah.
digress. Tara Strong had tweeted it because she has a segment on the My Little Pony one since she voices one of the My Little Ponies. So
No,
yeah,
very cool.
I heard
And
about the show.
second season, whatever it was. I actually watched the Barbie one, and that one was fascinating and weird. There was one person they interviewed, like they had like a naked flesh suit behind them, like they had skinned somebody alive, and it was lying over a chair behind it. It was so weird, so weird.
Dude, that's strange.
But well worth checking out. Now, speaking of Netflix, they just teamed up with Nickelodeon.
Remember all the stupid intros for that?
I do. I didn't. I'm sort of afraid to go back and watch
It's not
it.
bad. No, it's
No?
the original
Okay.
voices and stuff. I mean, if you're a fan of Rocko's Modern Life, it actually wasn't too bad.
Okay. And guess what, Tony? You can watch Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
No.
But we may get the CG animated one, which was the series before this, which was fantastic.
Yeah, the CG one was good. You know what I would really like is I'd really like the original Ninja Turtles. If they put that on there, that'd be good.
Yeah.
But as far as Rise,
Well, and some of the older...
well,
Yeah,
even
the
that
old-
one from the the early 2000s. That one I never got to watch those ones. When I had really
I was
bad intro.
Yeah. No, I was going to say it'd be neat if they put some of like the old classic Nickelodeon shows, like Salute Your Shorts.
Yes, you can't
and
do that on television. Double Dare.
Right. And apparently
Hidden
net...
Temple.
Oh, totally. The Aggro Crag. What was that? Oh, come on. It was like American Gladiators for kids.
Oh, it was. You sure that there was Funhouse? There was. Can't do this. You can't do that on television. But I mean, game show wise, what was that one?
It was like a physical. Ooh, Double Dare. That would be a good
Double Dare
one.
would
But
be really good.
it's going to hit me tonight at some point.
But you know, if you're fans of early Nickelodeons, like Are You Afraid of the Dark, all that. I liked it as a teenager, I guess. I mean, I'd watch
Yeah.
it, but it'd be really cool to have some good. I mean, they have a huge collection with Rugrats, Doug, Ren and Stimpy.
Oh,
Ren and Stimpy was way before its time. That show was raunchy, dude.
no, sir. I didn't like it.
Had a lot of just dumb things that stick with you.
Powdered Toast
Yeah,
Man.
oh god, powdered toast man. What if I have a soundbite for that?
Did you know Nickelodeon has a new version of Are You Afraid of the Dark out?
I did. I had read that. I heard it was just okay.
Oh, the previews for it actually made it look pretty creepy. I'd watched it with, not the show, but the previews with my boys, and it's like, maybe they shouldn't
Yeah,
watch
you're
that.
like, how about no? You're gonna have nightmares.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Nickelodeon has a huge back catalog, and I mean, now that they really own the full rights to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think they even own the rights to the old ones, because when I was playing the arcade at Walmart today, because you can buy the pop-up there, instead of it saying Konami, it said Nickelodeon on it. So
Right on.
Random.
Yeah. I forget who released the original. Was it Deke?
You
You remember that?
Yeah, I don't know if they were or not. They think they were, because it would say that at the end. Deek.
Yeah. So,
Why do I have "We Are the
I-
Little" stuck on my head now?
really?
You said
All right.
Deke. At the end,
Oh.
that's just what I remember. That.
So, in any case, staying in the realm of animation, but far from animation for kids, on not Disney Universe, DC Universe, which is obviously Warner Brothers' streaming service currently that airs all DC shows, movies, so on and so forth. The new trailer for the Harley Quinn animated series just dropped, and it is hilarious.
Oh, yeah, and we shared that. So check out our Facebook page when you're done streaming, watching this, and give it a watch. It's wow.
Not for
No,
kids.
definitely not for kids.
Absolutely
Don't
not
let
for
the
kids.
Watch it, but for you adults that like adult humor, you're gonna like it.
It's very good. The other thing that Tony and I were talking about just before the show is I did a little research, and when HBO Max is released, that's the HBO NBC, not NBC, Warner Brothers streaming service, they're going to be folding in all of the DC Universe into HBO Max. So you don't have to go out and get DC Universe as a standalone service. Just pick up HBO Max when it comes out, and you can get all of the DC Universe shows, plus the Warner Brothers shows, plus the HBO shows. It's gonna be well worth it. Quite a bit more expensive than Disney Plus.
Yeah,
though.
that's okay though. I see that being better than Apple TV. Like, have you taken advantage of your Apple TV for free yet?
No, there's nothing I'm really interested in watching
Yeah,
on that, and especially with Disney Plus out now,
I have no
even
interest
less
in
so.
it either. No offense, Apple. I love Apple stuff, but I have no interest in that. But I'm very interested in checking out HBO Max now. Definitely have a reason to be interested in that.
Absolutely. And you'll recognize some of the voices that are familiar characters in the Harley Quinn animated series. Kaylee Cuoco is Harley Quinn, obviously.
Annie.
Alan Tudyk, who was just at the Reno Pop Culture Con, he's going to be the
Yes,
Joker.
and he's another friend of our show. Thank you, Alan.
Lake Bell, Poison Ivy.
Ooh, I like Lake Bell. That's a good Lake.
Dietrich Bader is back as Batman. He voiced him in Batman the Brave and the Bold and did a great job. It looks like he'll be doing great in this one as
Yeah,
well.
I'm excited.
Christopher Maloney as Commissioner Gordon.
Lieutenant Stabler.
Yeah. And J.B. Smoove as Frank the Plant.
Oh, grow them up. I'm JB Smooth. Smooth like your booty.
And that actually premieres in 10 days from now. So November 29th on DC Universe. If you already have the streaming service, that's where you're going to watch it. Or if you wait till HBO Max comes out, you can catch it there.
Good news, everyone.
You know what I was just thinking after I played that, right before I played that sound clip?
There's no Futurama on Disney Plus?
Exactly.
I thought the same thing.
I get that Enchantment's not going to be on there because it's not a Fox property, but
Right.
Futurama was. That would be a great show for Disney Plus. Futurama is fantastic.
That's a show you can go back and watch any episode and they hold up. They're so funny.
Futurama's great. Huge fan of that show.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you all for sticking with us through the TV news. We're going to move. There really was. We're going to move over to movies and kick it off the way we do every week with the weekend box office report.
So loud.
So loud. All right. In the number one spot, if you listen to Pop Culture Con, not Pop Culture Con, Pop Culture Kaboom, the show that we guest hosted with our buddy Jimmy last week, we talked about a couple movies on here, but the number one movie was one that we talked about starring Matt Damon and Christian Bale in Ford versus Ferrari.
Matt Damon.
Oh, good for you.
Thanks, Christian Bale. Opened with $31 million, directed by James Mangold. So if you are a pop culture fan, you'll recognize that name from he directed Logan and The Wolverine as well. Apparently the Punisher's. Yep, the Punisher's in it as well, John Bernthal. And worldwide total so far is $52.4 million. Has a average Rotten Tomatoes score of 92%. It's doing well, and it's getting some Oscar buzz as well.
It looks awesome to me. Almost got to see it last night, but ran out of time. Was hoping to see it today again. Time did not allow. Though my uncle chimed into the show. He did see Ford versus Ferrari. He said, excellent movie. Definitely worth watching. And there was a new Star Wars trailer before it. So, final.
Oh.
So, he said now he's more excited for Star Wars, but Ford versus Ferrari was awesome. I've heard nothing but positive about it, and like I said, I really want to see it. So
yeah,
that looks like a thumbs up to me.
Yep. In second place was last week's number one movie. It's the World War II Roland Emmerich directed Midway, and it brought in a paltry $8.7 million, diving 51% from its last week's opening. So not a great weekend for movies in general, but Midway at least held the number two spot.
Yeah, again, another movie that your parents had said was an excellent flick.
Was very good.
I haven't had time to see it, nor have I been a bad movie reviewer, but Midway's on the list of movies to see for sure.
Yeah, there's 4 movies on this list that I absolutely want to see and just don't have the time to.
Well, at least you and I are going to agree on this next one.
Yeah, opening in third place, which, I mean, yes, it was third, but it only opened with $8.6 million. We're talking about the Elizabeth Banks directed and co-starred Charlie's Angels reboot.
Do you know Elizabeth Banks was pissed off about this opening? Like, she blamed it on man-haters that just are anti-women films. Like, she tried to play that card is why it did bad. No, Elizabeth, that's not why it did bad. You chose to reboot a TV show and a movie franchise, and it just didn't look all that great. Sorry.
And I actually enjoyed the 2 other Charlie's Angels movies that had Cameron Diaz, Lucy Liu, and Drew Barrymore. So you can't call it man-hating. Yeah. It's just
the cast. You probably could have called it something else, but I do like that you had Patrick Stewart in it, but thanks for playing it.
Well, and anything starring Kristen Stewart for me is just a snooze fest anyway, so.
She couldn't even make it. Like, if she was in a Marvel movie, it probably would not be the best Marvel movie.
Oh, yeah. Her acting is like dead behind the eyes acting. It's just,
Welcome to my podcast. Today, we are talking about movies. Today, my movie was number 3. And Tony gave it a... And I was offended. Yeah, it'd be like that. So,
I didn't know we had Kristen Stewart on the podcast.
Hello, Kristen. How are you?
All right. In fourth place was the John Cena kitty firefighter comedy PG rated Playing with Fire. Made just a little bit less than Charlie's Angels with $8.5 million. Actually had a few good actors in it. Keegan-Michael Key, and actually had Tyler Mane, who was Sabretooth in the first X-Men movie.
And it had Luigi, John Leguizamo in it.
Oh, that's right. Oh! Side tangent. Another movie we watched on Disney Plus that totally holds up, featuring starring Mario, was Who Framed Roger Rabbit with Bob Hoskins.
That was a good movie.
So good. Still holds up, and actually watching it as an adult, so much innuendo in there.
Well, what's crazy too is that was a real big thing back. Disney characters and Warner Brother characters enmeshed them. So there was Donald Duck going to town on a piano versus Daffy Duck, and I always thought that was really crazy. As a kid,
apparently it was
okay.
Yeah, apparently it was a nightmare getting the rights, but they got it figured out.
And that's also from the director of Back to the Future, from Robert Zemeckis. I actually kind of want to watch that. So
you should. It's good. All right. Back to the box office report. In fifth place was the Wham! Influence holiday comedy Last Christmas with $6.7 million.
Wham! Dude, I actually got out of that movie last night.
Oh, lucky you.
I got roped into that one.
Lucky you.
She said she'd go see it herself then. I didn't go.
All right. In sixth place is the third movie on the list that I still really want to see. The R-rated horror movie Dr. Sleep, the sequel to The Shining. Ran around. Made $6.1 million.
Straight bombing at the theater. Well, how sad.
It is.
Last
Yeah.
Christmas has made almost more money than that, and that's bad. Hey, but you know what's not going to beat it at the box office? Charlie's Angels.
That is true.
Good news,
I
everyone.
next week I see a huge fall for that
Oh
movie.
yeah, definitely. I think it's safe to say there's only one movie coming out this week that's going to even be any contention, because it's the only movie we're covering on Pop Culture Kaboom, and that's Knives Out. So I got a feeling that's going to be in the top one or two. It just depends. Ford versus Ferrari may have the wheels to go another week.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely will. All right. Seventh place is a movie I'm not familiar with called The Good Liar. 5.6 million. Stars Helen Mirren and Ian McKellen.
Yeah, based on the trailer, it actually looks intriguing. I don't know about enough to go to the theater. Basically, he's like a con man that likes to rip ladies off and leave them and just kind of rob them blind. But then he ends up falling for her, and then he turns into be a
In
murderer.
eighth place was Joker with 5.6 million.
That's not the right Joker laugh. But
I know you got it there
yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, that was not it. But it says the Joker laugh. So it's not on there. So
Pretty good
there it is. Here you
interpretation,
go.
though. And this week actually marks
300.
Joker. Yeah, it's the first R-rated movie to cross $1 billion worldwide.
Wow, that movie's wow. When you look at all the movies like in the top 10, they literally it's like 35 million, 25 mil, 22, 22, 322. It's like
Yeah, quite a bit.
Joker did way better in the box office than I think anybody predicted it to be. So
Better than I
good
expected.
job to Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips. So really good.
Yep. All right. Ninth place was Disney's PG fantasy sequel, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, with another 5.2 million. Though it's almost at $500 million worldwide, so it's not doing
No,
too
I
bad.
wouldn't say a bomb, but it finally broke 100 mil. I had mentioned that in last week's box office report that I was surprised it hadn't broken 100 mil yet, but
Domestically,
but
yeah.
it finally did. So kudos to that.
And then rounding out the top 10, and I mentioned that there were 4 movies on the top 10 I wanted to see. Apparently, the 4th movie wasn't even in the top 10. I'm talking Terminator Dark
Wow,
Fate.
it plummeted that far, huh?
Yeah, it was beat out by the biopic Harriet about Harriet Tubman.
I was dominated by Harriet Winslow from Family Matters. Now I am no longer in the top 10 because Harriet Winslow from from Family Matters, she reported with Carl Winslow, and then they have a kid named Eddie and Laura, and then Steve Urkel. That Urkel always gets the best of me. Now I am terminated and my franchise is in the shitter.
So, yeah. So that tops out the weekend box office report. Next weekend, Frozen 2. So apparently Knives Out is the weekend after.
Gotcha. Then why the hell are we talking about that?
I don't know, but Frozen 2 is going to dominate the box office.
And ladies and gentlemen, your number one film for the next foreseeable future, Frozen 2. Which Jimmy on his show called it Frozen also, but I didn't understand why. So maybe you guys can understand that. I did not.
All right, that does it for the box office report. Let's go ahead and go into movie news. Hit it, Tone.
Are you the keymaster?
Back it up, fuzzball.
We came, we saw, we kicked it back.
Is in talks with Mark Wahlberg, a Victor Sullivan alongside Tom Holland's Nathan. The thing is, I own this video game. It actually came with my PlayStation 4. I've yet to even crack the plastic seal on it.
No, you know why?
Couldn't tell you
because it came with Uncharted 4, right?
It did,
you gotta play Uncharted. Still there? Oh god.
I'm still here.
Now,
Audio's going.
just you
There we
guys
go.
bear with me. My internet here at my casa in Denver is not running very quick tonight, so there's a lot of lag. I apologize. But what I'm saying is the Uncharted. You got to go through the stories because you got to start with the first one to get there, and they're hella fun games. So
Now, do they play like the Tomb Raider, the
oh,
recent Tomb Raider
it's
games,
way
or?
better than that. Fluid, good story keeps you. Oh man, the controls are real fluid. No trickery, and there's a lot of puzzles. So it's very similar to Tomb Raider, but it's more accessible, more easy, and the story is just freaking awesome. So, um, the Uncharted, I'm with you. I haven't beaten Uncharted 4. I beat 1, 2, and 3, but not 4. But I wouldn't cast Mark Wahlberg as Sully. I actually thought more. You are gonna kill me because I just call him Jameson. What's the actual actor's name? Trail blank there.
Um, uh,
I put you on the spot too. Son of a, he's the guy that does the insurance commercials too.
ba ba da ba 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 ba. Why am I
I
blanking on
blanked on
his
his
name?
name too, and
I normally have him right
I
on the
know.
tip of my tongue.
That's why I thought you were gonna kill me with that. But anyways, I pictured him more as a Sully. If you played the games, you would totally get it. And I'm just gonna cheat here.
J.K.
Yeah,
Simmons.
thank you.
Ah,
J.K. Simmons. Wow, and it's not even a late night show. It's not even. We're not broadcasting it super late.
right.
But and I'm not even drinking either.
And then for those like myself who are unfamiliar with the game, Sully is an American treasure hunter, fortune seeker, and businessman, as well as a friend, mentor, and father figure to Nathan Drake. So, not sure that helps much, but in my mind, I figure this is like Tomb Raider meets National Treasure.
Yeah, it meets Indiana Jones. That's a good way to describe it. But again, I would have put Sully as J.K. Simmons, and I think Tom Holland being Nathan Drake was a fine one. But you probably could have even got away with Mark Wahlberg being Nathan Drake too.
Well, and when I see the picture of Nathan Drake, I figure that's definitely Mark
Yeah.
Wahlberg.
So
A little bit bigger in stature than Tom
yeah.
Holland.
So we'll see. I'll reserve judgment until I see it and see some trailers. But if you fans of the PlayStation game, you guys are in for a treat because those games are pretty damn cool. So
Well, and speaking of reserving judgment, we are now going to switch gears to another movie based on a video game that is our trailer of the week. And it is the brand new trailer for the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Now, if you remember the first trailer that came out, and we talked about it a number of episodes back, there was a huge outcry in the way that Sonic looked. He was weird, had these awful, like human teeth and tiny eyes, and the color was not quite right. It was just off, just
it was
weird.
creepy.
So the filmmakers guaranteed they'd go back, fix it, which they did, and I think they nailed it this time.
Yeah, I do too. That was a lot of work.
It's a Chaos Emerald!
Okay, Sonic, thanks.
Tony's playing with his Sonic
Yeah.
buttons. But, the first trailer, I couldn't even tell you if the movie looked good or not, just because
It was scary looking.
I was just thrown off by the character design. Well, now that this new trailer has come out and they've absolutely fixed the character design, they've brought in more of the Jim Carrey Dr. Robotnik character. I think it looks funny. It's definitely a movie that I'll take the boys to see.
Oh yeah, it went from completely unwatchable to watchable. They made Sonic look how they should. Um it's basically like what they did with the original Super Mario Brothers movie where he just didn't look like Mario. I guess it's
No.
not along the same thing, but I mean, I'm if you go to our Facebook page, you can see the comparisons, the link of what Sonic the Man looked like or the weird character to what Sonic should look like. And now you're pleased with the look of it, and the movie actually doesn't look bad. Jim Carrey looks awesome as Dr. Robotnik.
He's hilarious. Yeah.
He looks freaking good, actually.
So, and as a part of, the redesign, they obviously had to move the movie back a little bit, but you don't have to wait long. It is going to be released.
Hi, Mike Yandra, our first watcher tonight. Woo!
All right.
He's watching from Florida, of all places. He's a Disney World and he's watching our show. Thanks, Mike.
That's weird. Our last show had a bunch of people on watching live.
Maybe Tuesday night's not a live action night.
Yeah. Well, we were shooting for Sunday, and that didn't work. And then we sort of shot for yesterday, and I was just beat. I couldn't do it. So today's the day. And
it's okay. You'll listen on the podcast.
It all works.
It's all good. But, yeah, man, This movie it looks pretty good. I mean.
Yeah. So as I started to say, they had to push the movie back, but it will be coming out on Valentine's Day 2020. That's February 14th. So if you've got little ones or you enjoy the video game series, might be worth checking out.
I also think it's smarter on their part because it was supposed to open this month, which would have just got throttled by Frozen 2.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it would have got annihilated. Yeah. So smart on their part to do it in February, kind of the kickoff. What now seems to be like the summer movie season seems to kick off earlier. So, not that I think this is a summer type movie, but I think it'll be a fun kids movie.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, moving on over to the superhero side of things, and now as I'm looking through this, I probably should have added it to the TV news. But the Russo brothers, Joe and Anthony Russo, who obviously were the directors of Avengers, Infinity War, Endgame, all of the Captain America movies except for the first one, and really sort of made the MCU what it is next to Kevin Feige. Well, they have been tapped to do a series of documentaries on a new streaming service called Quibi, which features short form. Basically, each episode is going to be 6 minutes, and the show is going to be called Slugfest. And it actually chronicles the growth of comic books as a new American art form following the rise of the two companies that went on to become comics publishing and Hollywood powerhouses. Of course, that's Marvel versus DC. And a lot to tell there. I mean, there's, if you know anything about the history, it's strange and interesting.
Yeah, Quibi entering the streaming wars is not gonna, I don't think gonna come out big, but I really like this with this show. I'm definitely interested in this series, so something I definitely want to check out. And as we get more information, stay tuned, and we'll be sure to pass it along to you on our Facebook page, and we'll be talking about it in future episodes. So,
and I've mentioned it in the past that if you're a podcast listener, obviously the first podcast you want to listen to is this one. But after you've listened to the Proton Pack podcast, go over and find a podcast called Business Wars. And they did a 6-episode series of Marvel versus DC. And it tells you the whole story, the insights behind it. I have a feeling this will dive into that as well. Obviously, you'll be able to watch this, but super interesting.
I like it. Sorry.
And the last one that I listened to through Business Wars was WWE versus...
was it WCW?
WCW, yeah.
You gotta like that if you're a wrestling fan, listen to that show. Those were in the late 90s, that Monday Night Wars. Those were awesome.
Yeah, they cover all of it, which was
so cool, and all that crazy stuff. Like, to hear how close that Vince McMahon was close to losing his company, and how much that money. And now you look at it now, it's such a big thing. I mean, you could be watching Fox, on your NFL Sunday, and there's millions of advertisements for SmackDown.
He was close to going to prison, too.
Yeah, for steroids, yeah. Yeah, crazy.
Yep. All right. On to the next story, which, again, and Tony mentioned it earlier, really could have been either in the TV or the movie segment. But, everybody knows the drama that's happened between Marvel and Sony as it relates to the Spider-Man franchise starring Tom Holland. We had Homecoming, Far From Home, and of course we're now going to get a third movie that's under the Marvel Insight. But that does not mean that you're going to be able to watch them on Disney Plus, because they're still technically Sony movies. Those are the films that you won't be able to go back and watch all of your MCU movies in order, because they just won't be there.
Yeah, it's a shame. Again, this is that whole pain in the ass thing of the rights that Sony has, and it's great that he's in the MCU, but at the same time, Disney can't take full advantage of the marketing because of all the rights and stuff. So it's a bummer. But that's why if you still buy digital films or the actual discs, at least you can watch it that way. But it is disappointing to know that Spider-Man, aside from the animated stuff, will not be on Disney Plus.
Yeah, so Marvel owns all of the TV and comic book rights to Spider-Man, just not the film rights. And yeah, so if you want to watch Spider-Man, you got to go out and either buy or buy the physical or the digital version of it.
And if you want to pick up the newest Spider-Man, Far From Home, you can get it dirt cheap on Black Friday at one of the big box stores. So
nice, good
if
to
you
know.
need to collect that, there you go.
All right. Another story that has to do with Disney Plus, which is a TV streaming service, but also movies. We're talking Star Wars: A New Hope. Well, the Disney Plus version of Star Wars: A New Hope has changed the Greedo scene again. Again. There it is. So, yep. So if you recall, in the original, it was Han Solo that shot first. In the 1997 special edition format, they changed it to Greedo shooting first, and Han was more defending himself. And of course, obviously, fans got really upset about that. Well, with Disney Plus, you still get Greedo shooting first, but now apparently Greedo shouts out McClunky before getting shot.
McClunky!
And I got to go back and watch that now because I have no idea what that means. I mean, after the show, I might go drop a McClunky, but...
Yeah, we might have to replace the Sherwood term to McClunky.
Yeah. But I couldn't tell you the reason for it. Nobody seems to be coming out on why they're doing that, other than the fact that they want to make their hero seem like a hero. But there's no reference in Star Wars anywhere to what McClunky actually
I think I might be able to fire up a clip here. Hang on a sec.
Ooh. How quickly can he pull it up?
McClunky.
So he doesn't really shout it out, he says it, but...
That's a little exaggerated there.
Right. And the funny thing is, in those scenes, you get the subtitles, so you know exactly what he's saying, but apparently not for McClunky.
It's a 14-second clip, and it definitely does show him firing first. Yep.
And when they digitally redid it, it was sort of like, for lack of a better term, McClunky. It was sort of clunky that what they did with Han and how they made it that Greedo shot first.
Yeah. What's funny, because they have Han, when I just slowed it down, Han just kind of, he just moves his head slightly, shot, done.
Yep. So, unfortunately, you don't get the Han shot first version at Disney Plus.
I hope one day they put just the original unedited ones. I'd like to watch the original clunky versions just to see what's changed.
Well, and even when they did the special editions and they included Jabba the Hutt in A New Hope, and he looked weird and was sort of skinny, and when they had Han step over his tail, like, they just sort of took a cut out of him and went like boop boop
Yeah, and it's just like it would have been nice to watch it how it was filmed. I'm sure it's really cheesy looking today, but still would have been cool. It's kind of like, do you remember in the original Phantom Menace they actually used a puppet Yoda, and they went back and
I
got rid of
do.
his ass and they made him digital because
Yeah,
the puppet was pretty bad.
it was.
Oh, but I guess that does it for movies. We had a lot of TV stuff to cover, maybe not as much movies.
We did. We did. Now, we are moving on to our last segment,
Thank you
which,
for hanging in there.
yes, don't have much to cover in this segment, but as always, it is video games.
Hey man, you wanna play some video games? Hadouken! Oh my! He's on fire!
Good. Take your hands bubblegum.
KO.
KO. So the first bit, not really news, it's more of a review. We're going to give you a uneducated review of Pokemon Sword and Shield. I doubt you've picked up this game on Nintendo Switch.
No,
Tom.
we carry it at this wonderful establishment that I work full time at. We did receive that the other day.
Okay, but you personally haven't
No,
picked
it got, I did not know.
Okay. Well, Nintendo is known for making fantastic Pokemon games. To be fair, did have the Game Boy, early Game Boy Color. What was the red one? What was it called?
The red Game Boy, or the red Pokemon Game Boy?
Was it just Pokemon Red and Pokemon
Yeah,
Blue?
because they did colors.
Yeah. And then for the 3DS, and my boys have Sun and
Yeah,
Moon.
you're right. Game Boy
and,
Generation 1 Pocket Monsters, red and green. And then they had blue.
Red and
then
green.
they had red and blue. Then yellow. And I don't know what the hell the differences were, so.
I couldn't tell you either. But they are RPGs, and if you are a fan of sort of the classic RPG style, very good. As I mentioned, my boys picked up Sun and Moon on the 3DS, which apparently is a good game as well. And then most recently, Pokemon has released for Nintendo Switch Sword and Shield. And again, I don't know the difference between the two different versions. Are they the same game with different characters? Are they two
What's
totally
crazy
separate
is
games?
at where I work, they sell it's one package. It's $100. It comes with both. So I don't know why you need both. I
Interesting.
don't really get it. Reading the review here, since I can't, we wanted to make a mention of it this week only because in a video game world, it's good to let you guys know, the consumer or the listener, if you're interested, that this game is available. And while I can't give you a personal review and Chris can't, it's our duty to just kind of tell you a little about it. And so basically, it says Pokemon Sword and Shield are closer to a dream Pokemon RPG than anything that's come before. The cutscenes are good. There's companion Pokemon. There's a Pokedex. It's visually interesting wild area, but not very effective. But the time that is spent is apparently wonderful. You get to capture, train, battle wonderful creatures, and if it gets repetitive, I guess you can breed Pokemon. So it actually got a 9.3 on IGN. They gave it an amazing. It says Pokemon Sword and Shield are the best games in the series, streamlining the most tedious traditions without losing any of the charm. So it just says, that it's a good game. So if you're out there and you're interested in it, seems like the fans are clamoring that it's good.
Nice. Sounds like it's well worth the pickup if you are a Pokemon fan with plenty of time on your hand and you don't want to wander out in traffic trying to collect Pokemon on your smartphone.
Yeah, well, that and the Pokemon Go is still like probably the most popular of the Nintendo mobile games.
It's still going, and it's making a ton of money.
Everywhere. Everywhere you go, there's a Pokemon. There's exclusive ones they got to catch. So, as they say, got to catch them all. But if you're a fan of Pokemon and you have a Switch, apparently this is one top game. I still recommend Luigi's Mansion for the Switch. That's what I would go get. But you can't go wrong. The Switch has a lot of really good games. So yeah.
Nice. And then another game that recently came out, and we've talked about it leading up to its release, is Star Wars Jedi.
McClunky!
Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, released from EA and Respawn. Now, apparently, the gameplay, the story, the graphics, aside from the character models, which we've talked about quite a
Yes.
bit, are fantastic. On IGN they gave it a 9. Apparently, Cameron Monaghan, who was the Joker, well, not the Joker, but he
Gotham?
was,
I was
yeah,
wondering because I was gonna say in this review he looks a hell of a lot like him. It's creepy.
yeah. Apparently, that's who plays him, and that's who they used. Um,
But I see
I,
what
I
you mean though
still,
with the weird facial things. Like when you're playing the game, it does take away. It's definitely weird.
yeah, it just isn't up to speed with games like Modern Warfare and Gears 5, just in the facial character models. And it's something that we also talked about with the Square Enix Avengers game that is getting ready to release in the next 6 months or so. That games have gotten so good that they can't afford to not have great character models. Now, apparently with this game, that doesn't matter because the gameplay is apparently
It
fantastic.
is. I did pick it up. I actually forgot I ordered it on Amazon a while back because you could get it $10 cheaper. So I ordered it a while back. I did receive it, played the first level. Um, give you the cons first. The cons definitely, the graphics are great. Now, the character models, as Christian was alluding to, they're funky. They definitely look something straight out of PS3, Xbox 360 era. They're definitely better than PS2, original Xbox era. They are better than that, but it definitely seems like they took a game from the last gen and kind of remastered the character models where they're just not as sharp as they should be. And it's all the characters are like that. It's not just the human ones. Um, and now, with that being said, the gameplay is very fluid. The graphics and scenery around are beautiful. So when it's raining, you actually see puddles on the ground and you're running through puddles, and all of that's legit. The hair's moving when you're moving. So the graphics are very detailed in that sense. And the gameplay, like I said, very fluid. Learning how to use the force and utilize your lightsaber, very very cool. And the game plays, which you have not played it, but it plays like
Nope.
Uncharted.
How close is it to
No, great act,
The Force Unleashed,
very very similar, very
gameplay wise?
similar.
Okay.
It plays a lot like that. I would say it's definitely a mixture of that and Uncharted. Yeah, very
Okay.
good game. Definitely some puzzles. The thing, and what's great is you have 4 options. You can play just story mode, which essentially is easy. Where that way, if you die, whatever. Because obviously there's parts where you're going to die, but at least you can progress through the story and it not mess with you. And then you can be Jedi Master or Padawan, then Jedi Master. You can move up the ranks. But I gotta say, it's definitely a game worth picking up. I would agree with IGN's assessment of a 9. It's definitely the best Star Wars game I've played in a long time. It's not the most beautiful Star Wars game I've ever played, but it's definitely gameplay wise. It's essentially the Force Unleashed 3 is what I would say. So if you're a fan of those
All
series,
right.
that's good. I hated how I just froze on the screen. I went,
And I just saw a quote that you can actually cut through doors with your
yes, you
lightsaber.
can. And what's great too is even areas where you can't cut with your lightsaber, it totally hits it, and you'll see burn marks from your lightsaber on there, and they stick.
That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
it's pretty damn good. And it's funny that you said that Cameron Monaghan is the base model off of it, because I swear I was like, he looks just like him, and that's before I found out. So I was like, it's kind of weird. But so far the story's pretty cool, and I've like I said, I've only played the one level. I just got it the other day, and don't have a whole lot of time to play these things, so I can't be as thorough as Mr. IGN, who gets paid to go through the entire game. Believe me, I would do it if I got paid to do it. So, but
Now, is it single player only, or is there any co-op or
to my
online
knowledge, it's just
on
single
this?
player. But
Okay.
let me just double check real quick. I don't want to lead you astray, but from what I played, it was only single player.
I'm looking through, and there's no mention of co-op. There's no mention of online multiplayer, which might actually be good. If you want online multiplayer, go pick up the last two Star Wars games.
Yeah, that was surprisingly they still get played. You know what I really like? Like I think this game is good, and it is just a single player game.
Okay.
But you know what's good is it is a good Star Wars game, and what I'd really like is I'd like a good game like this, but go back and let's. They don't have to follow in the canon stories, but wouldn't it be cool to go play through like all the Star Wars, like in a Force Unleashed type, where you could actually play as Luke Skywalker again and get to just experience it and do it, even though you know how the story goes. I think it'd be really neat.
That would definitely be cool. Well, folks, thank you for hanging in there. It's been about an hour and 20 minutes. A lot of news to cover.
Had a couple of
But
rambling moments tonight.
yeah, that's okay. That's all right. But we had fun. Hopefully you had fun. As always, check us out on our social media, facebook.com/Proton Pack Podcast, on Instagram @Proton Pack Podcast. Tony will keep updating the Facebook page with more stories than we can even get to on this show. And drop us a line. Let us know what you think. Give us reviews. Chime in. And always, always, always subscribe, leave reviews, and get us anywhere that you get your podcast platforms. Apple, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, so on and so forth.
And as always, thanks for listening, and watch Mandalorian. Baby Yoda rules.
I am hasta la vista, baby.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over. Woo!
Mommy, where's Fluffy?